Hello, everybody. Welcome. Great Sunday evening, everyone. It's a little after 3. I hope you all remember to set your clocks back or you've been late all week if you haven't. Welcome to the Quintessential Queens podcast right here on IntellectualRadio.com. We are an iHeart radio station, IntellectualRadio.com, y'all. This is the Quintessential Queens podcast, and I'm your host, speaking with Dee. I'm glad you all joined me this Sunday. We have had quite a week, I would say, or maybe quite a couple of weeks, right? So we had an election and we had some very ignorant people texting slavery text. So I'm going to back it up and go into these slavery texts that a lot of people across the nation, black people, mind you, young black people, black men and black women receiving texts saying that they need to be ready to sign up to be picking cotton in the fields. And they were given a date like November 24th, 5 p.m. Be ready because we're coming to get you. So a lot of people across the nation, not just in certain neighborhoods or certain cities, the nation were receiving these texts. And black people, let me be very clear, a lot of black people were receiving these texts stating that they're going to be enslaved out in the fields and to be ready, specific date, specific time. Now, me, I was thinking, how much attention should we be giving this? How much attention, how much airing time should we give such very negative, ignorant, hateful speech and rhetoric? Should we even be talking about it on the air? What y'all think about that? Should they have even given this any attention? I'm thinking when people with that mindset, ignorant people, that's who they are, they're doing it for attention. They want airplay on the radio waves and on television and on broadcast. They want to broadcast those thoughts. Let me tell you something. You don't have to broadcast those thoughts. We already know it's some of y'all out there who feel like that. We already know that it's some people out there that wish they can put black people in their place, which is out in the field, picking cotton, following rules, Jim Crow, Willie Lynch. We ain't in that no more. So everybody kind of need to grasp that and believe in it and let that crap go. Let it go. Black people are everywhere and we ain't going nowhere. You can try to do all these awful things to us, but it's not going to work. We're still here. We're a very resilient people and we're a very successful people. So then I thought about it, right? Some of my friends told me some things like if I was the person to receive that text and then found out friends of mine were receiving the text and neighbors were receiving the text, or my black friends and my black neighbors were receiving these texts, that we should say something about it because it's possibly maybe there's some fear if someone sends you something like that and tells you that they're coming to get you a certain date and a certain time, or maybe you feel like you need to gather yourselves and gather your protection to protect yourself. So, which way do we flip with this? Which way do we flip with this nonsensical hate speech? Because that's what it is, nonsensical hate speech. I'd like to hear from you. So if you're on Facebook, or you can call me 708-223-8953. The number again is 708-223-8953. I want you to tell me how you feel about these very ignorant slavery texts that have been sent to multiple and millions of black people all over the nation. I want you to tell me how you feel about that. I have a caller. What do I hit, Wanda? Help me out. Just hit. Okay. Okay. Like that. That's simple, right? My grandbaby would know that. Hello? Rhea, call right back. We believe you were getting ready to give us an opinion. Hello, caller. This is IntellectualRadio.com, Quintessential Queens podcast. Who am I speaking with?
You are speaking with Rhea Ray Harris Yarbrough. How are you?
How are you? For any of you who I'm sure all of you know out there in my social media, our social media presence, this is the host of Quintessential Queens podcast. Also, Rhea sits in this chair often with a guest to the right of us all the time. Thank you for calling me, Rhea. Thank you so much.
Two things. Number
Yes.
one, please adjust your live because I can only see a part of your face.
Okay. Thank you for telling me. Is it adjusted?
Now I don't know if I'm on the phone and I'm about to start driving. You know, I'm in the real estate streets, but I checked it before I called in.
Okay, I think we're
And
good. I think we're good now.
all right, good. Number two, I just wanted to speak really quickly about allegiance and alliances.
Go ahead. Allegiance and alliances.
One of the reasons that the black women, some of them around me, were so upset about the election, besides the obvious, was that the percentages of white women who voted for Trump were a lot higher than those black women expected. And I was surprised that they were surprised
Oh,
because,
okay. You were surprised that they were surprised. How come?
yes, because in my experience in life and in observations, when there's an issue that tends to affect black women in a particular way, I don't see an outpouring of support from white women. And yet, black women align themselves with white women at almost every rip, at almost every call. And I'm not speaking in blanket statements as if every white woman in the world feels like this. I am speaking in generalities. But we align ourselves with an entity that does not tend to have any allegiance to us. When we have seen black women and girls beaten, killed in jail, Sandra Bland lives forever. The young girl I'll never forget in Texas, where the white male officer was sitting on her back and had her arm twisted behind her. We don't hear anything. We don't hear anything from the white female population. But anytime there's something that they want to bring to the forefront, we get in line to march right with them. Over 100 years ago, when the members of Delta Sigma Theta sorority chose to march in the women's suffrage movement's march, they were already told that they weren't wanted. They didn't want black women there. And yet we marched anyway because our thought was, well, hopefully it'll help us down the road sometime if it helps them. I'm assuming that was the philosophy. But here we are 100+ years later, and we're still hoping that something that benefits them may benefit us. And therefore we are going to stand with them regardless. But when it comes to matters that affect us in great percentages and numbers, you get crickets on that side of the fence. So I just want to say to women out there of whatever ethnicity, I want you to consider what I'm saying. Before you get angry, think of if how much validity is in it, historically as well as in this election.
So you're saying you definitely feel like we don't get support from Caucasian women for the issues that are important to Black or African American women.
Absolutely. That's absolutely what I'm saying.
And that we as Black women are always aligning ourselves with the issues and concerns of women of other races, but
Absolutely.
but not getting, there's no reciprocation is what you're saying.
Lauren Hill sang a song, and I can't remember the name of it, when she talks about that reciprocity many, many, many years ago. I have stood on that ever since. We do not receive reciprocity when it comes to us being women of color, and when it comes to their situations and circumstances, we stand in the gap always. We are always in the gap.
And you also mentioned history. And I'm
Yeah,
sure a part of that history is, well, one of the things, since we're talking about election and voting, was there was a period of time where women could not vote. We had
right.
where men could vote, black men could not vote, then black men got the right to vote, and women still could not vote. Then women got the right to vote, but that did not include black women. Black
Well,
women did
let's
not
say it a
have the
little
right
bit
to vote.
differently. Let's say that a little bit differently. Black men technically had the right to vote, but realistically, they still did not have the right to vote even then. So let's tell the whole truth on that.
Well,
But when we look at it,
realistically, even like in the 70s, even, there was so much voter suppression. Yeah, we got the right and we want it, but look at all the harm that was coming to black folks that were trying to vote. Look at all the people who got
absolutely,
turned away when they were trying to vote. So we've had that struggle for the longest of time, the very longest of time.
absolutely. And we're still having that struggle depending on where you are in this country today.
That's right.
But in dealing with the white women who stated, oh, the ones out there doing the blue Democrat or whatever it is, bracelets, the friendship bracelets, and people are up in arms about, because it is a symbolic gesture of nothingness. Because at the end of the day, your bracelet does not change the outcomes of the percentages that proves how you all voted. You can wear that
I
blue
don't think they
bracelet
making a
until it's
secret about
over.
it. I don't think they're making a secret about it either. They've been these women that voted for Trump, they've been very outspoken about it.
Well, some of them are, and some of them aren't, because understand, depending on where you work and your environment, where you live, etc., it may not be the popular stance. But 20% of black people in Chicago, from what I understand, voted for Trump too. So when we call it out, that, and some of them, I have some Trump supporters on my timeline on Facebook, and that's cool. I don't have a problem with your voting. I do have a problem with the disrespect that they show people back and forth, but you do what you want to do. I'm saying this: as black women, we need to assess how we expend our energies, our time, our money for certain causes, and what is the return on investment. If you are going to invest your time, energy, money behind a cause that when you are on fire wouldn't spit on you to help put you out, then you may want to think about how you're doing this thing. Because we have repeatedly done this at least over the past 100 years, as I cited, starting with the women's suffrage march. And we have gotten zero, as far as I'm concerned, return on our investment.
What are the returns you would be looking for when you say return on our investments? What are you looking for?
When it's a black girl with a white officer's knee in her back for being at a pool party, I want you to stand up and protest. I want you to be at that police station demanding accountability. I want you to be seen supporting a cause that is a righteous one, not because the child was black, but because the situation was wrong. And if you're not willing to stand up in the light of day and stand for what's right, then don't call on us to help you with anything. Y'all handle that yourself.
Woo, you're not biting your tongue, are you?
No, I never do. Wanda remembers when my show was Straight No Chaser. It's still like that. I just have a different name because I have a partner now that I got to be accountable for, and I can't let you go out there with me in the weeds. But I'm so serious about that.
I understand.
I'm so serious about it.
And I understand because we've been suffering a lot. We're always suffering and we're always overcoming. And I myself I'm getting tired of all of this marching and protesting. Why we got to march and protest for every little thing that we deserve? not what we
I'm not gonna
want,
march
what we
ever.
deserve.
What's today's date? Mark it down. Ria's not marching to protest anything from this point forward. I didn't do a lot of marching before, but I'm going to give you one more example, and then I have to go. You know, I'm in my real estate streets with my client, so we
Yes,
have some
ma'am.
things to handle. Years ago, I saw a documentary called No Mas Babies, if I recall correctly. It was Spanish. The title was in Spanish. But it was about the situation in California where white women were protesting for the right to have tubal ligations within 3 days, I think it was. And black women and Latino women whose first language was not English were saying, well, hold on, we don't necessarily want this for two different reasons. The women that were Latino didn't understand what you were saying, not because they were ignorant, but because that was not their original language.
The
And
language
the black
barrier.
women haven't been bamboozled like the Mississippi appendectomy when they told you they were taking out your appendix when they were actually taking out your whole uterus in some cases, wanted a little time to assess the situation. Well, white women didn't care how it impacted black women and the other women of color. They wanted what they wanted because that's what was best for them. And they don't consider what's best for us under any condition.
So that information you just gave, a lot of people don't know about we're taking out your appendix, but really they were sterilizing black women. Um, Tell us about that. Where could people find that information if they want to go look that up? Tell us about more about that.
Google. Go to Google. Google Scholar. So to go to Google Scholar. Google Scholar and then type in Mississippi appendectomy.
Google Scholar and Mississippi appendectomy. Google Scholar.
Yes.
So that means you're going to get some scholarly information about it, not just opinion, because these are true
That's right.
things that have
This
happened
is the truth.
to
My
black
mother's
women.
from Natchez, Mississippi. Yes, my mother's from Natchez, Mississippi, and can tell you about it. She didn't have one, of course, because I'm here, but she also left Mississippi before she started dealing on that type of lifestyle. She was finished with college and came out of there. But that's the reality of it. So again, instead of considering the other women that they wanted to get on this feminist bandwagon, they let us drown for what was in their best interest.
It's a lot of people that feel the same way you feel. That the feminist bandwagon does not include women of color. That the feminist bandwagon, even the white women on the feminist bandwagon, they haven't been completely successful either. This is part of what affirmative action was. It really helped white women more than it helped
Absolutely.
black women or men of color. It really helped Caucasian women way more than it helped us. But they're knocking that out the box too. So I tell you something my mother said, since we're not biting our tongues, and she was saying, that the world has always treated women, including white women, like crap. And she said they still treating white women like crap. So you know how they're treating us. You know how they're treating us. So it's still
Well,
a big.
here's the thing. Here's the thing. Let's take the sheets off the mattress and look at the dirty one. Let's look at the truth. Even the quote unquote crap treatment that white women got cannot
compared
touch
to ours.
the treatment that black women have received historically.
That's the
in
truth.
this country.
That's the truth. And
So
in other
I don't
countries.
care how much they cry about, oh, we're not equal. No, I don't care about that, because when I look at how unequal I am in 2024, how unequal my mother was born in 1940, how unequal my grandmothers who were both born in 1917 were, I'm not really hearing. You can cry me a river and play the world's smallest violin on that one. I don't care. I don't care. Because at the end of the day, as black women, we still always, under any circumstances, get the short end of the stick. So, all right, white women have it hard. Boo-hoo.
I don't know how hard they have it, but nothing compares to the treatment we've received. And
Absolutely.
anybody of any race that does stand behind us cannot deny that. You can't deny it. You have to stand right behind that. Even if they marched in the street with us, They're not going to get the same treatment we got, i.e., the Capitol. Let that have been a bunch of black people overthrowing the White House. They never would have made it up the steps. Never would
Oh,
have
they would
made
have
it
been
up the
shooting.
steps.
They would have been shooting them down, and we know this. So, like I said, I am with my client. We are out in these real estate streets, so I have to go. But I could not let the opportunity to speak on your show or our show, but your hosting day,
Our
go
show,
by
right.
without bringing that to light. So, thank you for giving me your time, Sister D, and I will talk with you a little bit later off the air.
Okay. Thank you so much, Sister Rhea, for calling in.
You're welcome, darling. See you later.
I'll see you around.
All
Woo! Woo! I need a fan. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? That is a look, Rhea is a very intelligent, educated, prominent, successful Black woman of African American descent, and she has given you the 411. She's telling you how she feels about all of this, how the suppression and violent suppression of Black women, the experimentation surgically on Black women and Black women. They were doing this to African American women to right now. So we get here right now, and she's saying she don't see the reciprocation from other women. She doesn't see the reciprocation from women of other races, white women in particular, is where Rhea was speaking. And let me say this, then. I implore you, if you are a Caucasian female or a white woman, that you stand for us, call in 708-223-8953. 708-223-8953. Call in and tell me how you felt about what was just said. Is she wrong? Is the information incorrect? The information is not incorrect, and it's just a very sad state of our union. We were discussing voter suppression, and voter suppression was going on right now, where they were trying not to allow people to have ballots, where they were trying to change the rules, change the boundaries of wards and precincts that made it more difficult for you to cast your vote. One thing about voting, some people say, our vote doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what we do, they rigged the election, or it doesn't matter what we do, who we want doesn't win. I commend Biden and Kamala for coming out saying we accept the results. We accept the results of this election. The American people have spoken. This is what they want, because that didn't happen last election. The results were not accepted, and you still got a bunch of Republicans running around saying that Trump won last election and the election was rigged and there was voter fraud, regardless of the enumerated countings, regardless of all of the precinct captains and governors that came forward and said, look, there was no voter fraud here. We counted all of the votes, and this is what came out. And I'm talking about the last election, not this one. Results were not accepted. But Kamala and Biden came out and said, we accept the results. The American people have spoken. And the American people have spoken. The American people are very unhappy. Unhappy with the economy, um, unhappy with immigration, which that's a topic for a show that we'll be having, and just very unhappy with the way the presidency has been, the path that it's taking Americans on. So we have Donald Trump in office. That's fine. He's in office. What's going to change so drastically? Anybody got any idea? What do you think is going to really happen? My concern is, you do remember the last time he was in office, he put this ban in the airport, and there were Asian or Indian Americans, people that were citizens here, they couldn't get back home because he wouldn't let them back in the country. That was very, I don't know what to say. That's just something that shouldn't have happened. People got very emboldened his last presidency. Folks are just getting out of hand with their rhetoric, with their actions, dragging people off planes and carrying on. Let me tell you, we're not standing for none of that this time. It's not going to happen this time. We are not standing for any of that. Nobody is sitting around in their age in this country, working hard in this country, living in this country, dealing with racism in this country, to just sit up and let people come and do to us what they want to do to us. We're not going to do that. We're very ready intellectually and every other way to fight back. We can't be sitting here allowing awful things to happen. And just as Rhea was saying, there are other races, people should not be allowing things to happen. You can't just sit back at home and say, well, we don't agree with the things that are done to Black women and Black people. We don't agree. You have to stand up and do something about it, because it really matters when every woman stands up, not just every Black woman, not just every Asian woman, not just every white woman, all women. All women have to gather together and stand up. That's the only way this is going to be fixed. Nothing is going to be fixed if there's further division between us. There's such huge division between gender and race. Such huge division between that. One of the other reasons they believe Kamala Harris lost the election is because she was a Black woman. I agree. I think that's definitely one of the reasons. I agree. Another reason was people were upset with the economy. Groceries cost too much. There's not enough raises and pay to help us meet the increase in the cost of living. I agree. That's the truth. That's one reason I believe she didn't win the election, also. And then immigration. Immigration in the Democratic presidency, Biden as the president, Kamala as the vice president, they didn't like the way they were handling immigration at all. And in particularly in this city, we're a sanctuary city. So there was a lot of migration coming into the city. And a lot of people were split about it. A lot of people were very much opposed to it. And there were some people that, once they were here, some empathy came across. And I was one of those people. Once I saw people sleeping on the ground in the cold, snowing, that was ridiculous. That was very ridiculous. I couldn't believe that you would bring people here saying you're going to help them and have them sleeping on the ground when it's snowing, have them sleeping on the floor of police stations. Children, we're talking pregnant women, children of every age from baby to 3, 4, 5, 7, kids. These are kids, kids that we would never wish any type of oppression on. We always want to be able to help whomever we can help. And I believe in that. You should help whomever you can, whenever you can. That was mishandled. That's sorely mishandled when folks were sleeping on the ground, sleeping in the park. Well, we not all around Summer City. We have horrible winters here. We have, at times, we've had many feet of snow, not just inches, many feet of snow. Below zero weather where it feels like it's 30 below and 40 below. You can't have people sleeping outside with that type of weather. That is one thing that I really felt the city and the nation completely mishandled. Completely mishandled. But that's a different topic for another show. I was speaking about the election, and I was speaking about the slavery texts that were going out to Black people, African American people, children, and adults, telling them to get ready to start picking cotton because their day is coming, with a date and a time. Who's doing that? Who did that? And what's the consequence for doing something like that? Is there any consequence for that? And why did it receive the airplay? I was once saying you shouldn't give these people who sent the text any broadcast time. But the people who received those texts feel completely different. They want it to be known that such nonsense is occurring. So when things like this happen, this is when everyone of every color need to stand up and say, this is not something we agree with. This is not something that we're having. This is something that we will fight against, because it really does take all of us. You'll still have your section of people who feel the way they feel, right? They don't agree with the fight we're having. They don't agree with what we're trying to do, what we're trying to accomplish, the goals that we're trying to set forth to make this country better, and to have this country treat men and women of color better. And men and women of color are Black men and women, Latino men and women, maybe even Asian and Island Pacificer men and women, if they consider themselves men and women of color. I don't know. Don't get mad at me. That's why I'm putting that disclaimer in there, that it takes every person to stand up and say, we don't want to tolerate this. And not just every person of color, it takes white men and women too to stand with us to say, all of us don't feel like that. And even if there is a difference in politics, there's a difference between your politics and promoting hate crimes. There's a difference between your politics and supporting racist rhetoric. There's a difference. And I'm very aware of that difference. I know those differences. You know those differences. You should stand up and say something about it. A friend of mine posted on Facebook, and I paraphrase, she was saying, this is the last time she's going to vote. She doesn't see that it did anything in our favor. And she's a young Black woman. My answer to that was, and I paraphrase Elie Wiesel, and he was Jewish concentration camp survivor. He was a Jewish author, and he passed some time ago. But his quote, and I paraphrase the quote, all evil men need to do to succeed is for good men to sit back, be complacent, and do nothing. I will not be sitting back doing nothing. I've never sat back and done nothing. To why some people don't even like me, because like, I'm gonna say what I gotta say, and if I'm standing up for people, I'm standing up for people. All evil men have to do to succeed is to let good men sit back, be complacent, and do nothing. So we can't sit back and do nothing. We have to stand up for all the issues that we had prior to Trump in office. Stand up to all the issues that we believed in prior to whoever we voted for. The difficult part comes when the presidency, your House, your Senate, the people who make policies and bills aren't supporting your beliefs or our beliefs. So now you got to fight against them too. Now we got to figure out a way to keep our policies or better our policies. We need to better our policies for every person in this country, every child in this country, every person growing up in this country, people who believe in and live in this country. Again, I want to make the distinction. There is a difference between your politics and hate crimes. There is a difference between your politics and supporting racist rhetoric. Supporting racist rhetoric with your actions, supporting racist rhetoric with your non action. You have to stand up and fight for what you believe in, and you got to stand behind the people who believe in executing our beliefs. So we have a new president. Whether you voted for him or not, he is in office. He is the president. I'm waiting to see what's getting ready to happen. I'm waiting to see what's going on. Is anything going to be fixed? There's so many things that we have issue with. Yes, the economy. If you're shopping in a grocery store, you already know the food costs too much, right? It costs too much. Way too much. And we don't have the increase in wages to meet the increase in our cost of living. That's a huge issue, a very huge issue. Finding resources for our people, people that live here, people that are citizens here, plus the people that you're bringing here. Where are those resources going to come from? You have to make sure that we're doing things to make sure we have resources for everyone, because it's not right to treat people like luggage and baggage and just ship them all over the earth like they're not people. I didn't agree with that at all. Very mishandled. That's not right. Do it the right way. There's a proper way to bring folks into the country, right? There's even a proper way for sanctuary. There's a proper way to do it. I don't think it's okay to bring folks here and you have no place to put them, nothing to feed them. How does that help? How does that help? And then you have people here already where you have no place to put them and no place to feed them. There's so much flip flop and topsy turviness when it comes to politics and people. When you put regular working people in the middle of politics, it's all politics. It's like they forget about that there are live people out here living and dealing with the results. So we are the ones that have to do something about that. Voting, I vote because my great grandparents, my great aunts, and great uncles were harmed and even killed so that I could have this right. So I utilized that right. There was even a time where I felt like, my vote doesn't count because we could see the elections were rigged, whatever was going on with them. Something was going on with it. The counts were off and whatever. I felt like, yeah, my vote don't count, but I still went out and voted because of the people who stood before me to make sure I can get up, go out my door and cast my vote. My vote is my voice. Whether my candidate wins or not, my vote is my voice. We all have voices, we need to use them. We all need to think very hard about what we stand for and what we believe in, because this is the time to strap up your boots and stand behind what you believe in and stand behind the change you want to see and activate and make that change that you want to see. I'm just checking comments, y'all, to see if anybody's saying anything. I have a lot of people watching, but I don't have anybody saying anything. That is quite interesting. Where you heard Rhea Ray Harris, you heard her perspective, how she feels about that white women do not reciprocate the support that we give. And then you hear a different perspective from me that I really do believe it takes all of us. Everybody needs to stand up and support us. But, if you are a person of color, you're very used to it being just us. I quote my mother: justice, Justice, is just us. Justus. Justice is just us. We have to stand up and fight for what we believe in. We have to stand up and make the change that we're looking for. And by way, I'm talking about Black and African Americans, Latinos, Latinas, people of color. We have to stand up and do that. And we do need the support of our Caucasian brothers and sisters to do the same. We need that support. We need everybody to kind of come together and not just sit by and not say anything or not do anything. It's great that you might feel the compassion and empathy and, yeah, that's wrong and we should do something about it. But it's greater if you get up and walk with us, protest with us. I kind of feel like these millennials, the protesting they were doing over the last 4 years, that was everybody. I saw every nationality in those crowds. I saw every nationality when they spilled out on Lakeshore Drive protesting because I think it was Eric Gardner that they were protesting. I can't breathe. I was one of the drivers sitting there while the traffic was being blocked, but I was in full support, honking my horn. I don't mind sitting here if you're saying you want to change and you're tired of seeing Black men killed for nothing. I don't mind sitting there, letting the traffic being blocked when that is what you're doing. As a matter of fact, I should have been in the protest with them. I should have been right there with them. I was working though. I didn't even know about it until I was driving down the drive and they were stopping traffic. Sometimes that's what you have to do. You have to stop traffic. You got to stop traffic. I am one that it takes all of us, whatever nationality you are. I am one that there's no Black person in this country that hasn't been affected by racism personally, themselves and their family members. Not one. If you are one, please call or put it in the comment. Put it in the comment, call, let me know, because it's not one who hasn't been affected. There's always something either at your job, in your neighborhoods. And when you're done fighting for yourself, you got to fight for your kids. Now, your kids are receiving that same hateful treatment. Nothing makes you angrier than people messing with your children, right? So we can never get tired of standing up for ourselves. And I implore every person, white, Black, Hispanic, Asian, Indian, whoever you identify yourself as. Rally up and stand behind us for what we believe in. Rally up for yourselves and stand behind what you believe in. This is a country that we all live in, and it's a country that we have to keep safe. That's just what we got to do. That's what we have to do. Thank you all for listening to me. I appreciate your viewership. I appreciate your comments on Speaking with D on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. That's my handle. Speaking with D, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. I appreciate your comments. I appreciate your perspectives. I appreciate you watching the show. So we're going to wrap it up here. This is the Quintessential Queens podcast. Thank you, Rhea Ray Harris, for calling in. She will be sitting in the seat next week, by the way, y'all. Rhea Ray Harris. I believe she's going to have some of the Beyond Beautiful World pageant winners here. Maybe. I don't know. Tune in and see. But thank you for tuning in on the Quintessential Queens podcast right here on intellectualradio.com. Thank you. Thank you. We'll see you next week.